produced live. It's the final cut. No edits.
Really?
That's it.
All
Sucio
right.
Talked.
Okay, here we go.
Sucio Talk podcast here in Oakland in the studio. Raquel Goldman. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having
Boom.
me.
Should I say chef? Raquel Goldman. What's up?
What's up?
How you doing?
Good.
Good. You just came over the Bay Bridge.
Yep.
Was it a disaster?
It was slow, but not bad.
Right. How long did it take you to get here?
About 45, 50 minutes.
What is the shortest amount of time that you've ever crossed over the Bay
Ooh.
Bridge?
Easy, like 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never seen that day. So
Yeah.
hopefully
That's an early morning day.
one day, right? You get there at 4:30.
Yeah, you
right?
cross that bridge
before
at 5. Mhm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Today I was on my way into to train at Google and I'm
Mhm.
rolling over the bridge and it's like if you stay in the regular lanes,
Yeah.
it's like 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the HOV.
Yeah.
I was by myself. I sinned.
Yes. You risked that, huh?
Yeah, I risked it.
How much time did it cut off your commute?
30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
straight
good.
up. Yeah. I
Good
mean,
for
hey,
you.
I got there on time. You
Yeah.
know? Hey.
Yeah.
I got there with time to spare
Good.
and realized I was at the wrong building. So I had to
Oh.
walk 15 minutes anyway.
Oof.
So I was fine. I was still on
you still
time.
had
Yeah, I was still on time. I was
Okay.
like, yeah.
Chilling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's over there by their Google offices or where the Punchline is. Punchline Comedy Club.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Crazy little spot over there.
Yeah.
I don't know what neighborhood that is. But
Interesting.
anyway.
Okay.
Norte 54.
That's right. Norte 54
All right. Bakery.
Bakery.
Okay. Are you also a savory cook?
No, just pastries.
Just pastries.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Pan Dulce.
Pan Dulce.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been always baking since you were a kid?
Recreationally, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something I've always done,
Mm-hmm.
making large messes at home.
Was it through mom that came about?
Yeah, my mom was an avid cook. Is
Mhm.
an avid cook, good baker herself. She's always been in the kitchen. She didn't always let us be in the kitchen. But when I got older, maybe like 5th grade or so, I remember, the Scholastic book orders.
Yeah, Scholastic. Damn.
I ordered a cookie of the month
Yeah.
recipe cookbook. And I remember like cranking out messes and making batches of probably uneatable cookies, but there I was in the kitchen.
Right. That's dope.
Yeah, I've always loved it. And definitely carried it on through, high school and college, but also thinking about like, well, you're in college, you need to be doing something that is career focused, whatever that means.
Oh, crazy.
Um,
So you kind of saw yourself doing this professionally at some point?
no,
Never.
not for a long time.
Right.
I kind of like let it be on that back burner, kind of like this weird itch,
Mhm.
thinking like that's not something people really do.
Mhm.
You need to grow up and be professiontional
Right.
in the sense of, I think, what we're, presented with
Mhm.
as kids, or some kids are. So I went into school thinking maybe I'll study medicine, and then that didn't pan out, and
Mhm.
thought maybe I'll study art, which is essentially what I graduated with, an art degree, with the intention of studying something in design or architecture. These are things that I do love and I'm very passionate about. But in the course of, taking on all the different art classes that I did, I could never sort of find that calling or that passion with each medium. I was like, oh, I like this one. No, I like this one. I like that one. But in the meantime, I was always cooking. I was always baking. And that's something that I always connected to.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until maybe 20 years later that I thought, all right, enough already. Like,
Right. I'm just going to do this.
I'm just going to do this.
Damn.
Yeah.
Takes a lot to do that.
It took a long time.
What'd your friends say and your family say when you said you were going to do this? Were they with you, or were they like, you're fucking ta loca?
Maybe a little bit of both.
Right.
But at this point, like, you're looking at a 40-year-old me, and there's like, there's not much to, people are going to tell you at that age. Like, okay,
Right.
fine, I guess you're going to go do that. And I was lucky enough to be here in San Francisco when I made that decision. And there was a cooking school that's now closed that had a really fast track program. They get you in like 6 months in class, like full time.
Right.
And then 3 months, they pop you into either a restaurant or a bakery.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just such a great experience, sort of like this fast track, no nonsense, learn all the basic stuff that you need to know, and everything else you'll learn like while you're on the job or in your training. And
What was the school called?
San Francisco Cooking School.
San Francisco Cooking School.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the chefs? Like, what was the organization? Why are they no longer
Why
around?
COVID?
Oh, COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, small school then.
It was a very small school.
Where was the classroom? Where was the?
The school was located in San Francisco, right on Turk and Van Ness.
Right.
So I guess that's kind of like Nob Hill, Tenderloin adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a school founded by this woman named Jody Liano. I think she was a chef in her previous life, and she had a lot of contacts with great restaurants in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And with this passion of creating a school, but eliminating a lot of what typical culinary programs tend to do, which is, teach these old methods and teach these all like antiquated things that, you don't need when you're heading into a restaurant setting or a bakery setting.
Right.
So she collaborated with a lot of friends and chefs in the city to create a curriculum that just kind of like, what do you need when you want to hire somebody? What do you need them to know?
Mm-hmm.
And what can we eliminate from the typical like 2-year or 4-year curriculum?
The bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah.
Right to the point.
Right to the point. And
When you say full time, was it 5 days a week, 8 hours?
yeah. Yeah, close to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
So like Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm. What was the curriculum like? Like, was it theory and hands-on every day, or okay?
Yeah, so it was for the pastry side, which I can't speak to the culinary side, but I was in pastry. It was broken into blocks of the different things that you would go through in a culinary program. So these next 2 weeks are going to be bread focused. So we just learn about bread and like sourdough and all the different kinds of breads. Or these next 2 weeks are going to be focused on lamination. So you learn about all the croissant, world, or chocolate making, or so it's just like broken down into like chunks of time for each subject. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And 6 months, you're done.
6 months. And then after
Where'd they place you?
So I got placed in Nopa.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nopa pastry.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So who was the chef at the time, the pastry chef?
Pastry chef at the time and currently is Elise Moore.
Okay, Elise Moore, pastry chef. Dope.
Yeah, she's great. She's learned a lot from her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I never been to Nopa, so what's the setup there? Is it like a la carte kitchen?
Yeah, it's a restaurant.
Okay. Yeah.
American, California style. And yeah, it's a la carte.
Okay, a la carte. Okay, got you. I think I know. I was opening a restaurant recently, and I had a cook from there that worked for me for like 4 hours.
Okay.
And it was the worst service in my life.
No.
It was horrible.
I'm sorry.
He never came back. He was like, fuck this.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. So if he's out there, shout out to you. I love you. Thanks for sticking up.
Thanks for 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's like, fuck this, I'm out.
That's funny.
Yeah, shit happens. But
Yeah.
Nopa, okay. How long were you there?
I was there for a year. So my program that I went into was the summer of 2018. Kind of carried, like 6 months carried me into the new year, 2019.
Right.
And then I was hired. I'd stayed on. Like it just kind of worked out. That's not always the case. In fact, I wasn't expecting to be offered a job just because they already had a full pastry team. But as luck would have it, somebody on the pastry team was leaving, and so they offered me the spot, which was really great. It did take a little bit to convince myself that I, wanted it and wanted to be there, or like could be there. But then after, I think I started working there officially in March of 2019 and worked all the way till March 2020.
Got it.
And then COVID hit.
What did you do during COVID?
So during COVID, after the restaurant shut down,
Right.
I went back home. I have 4 kids, so I focused on the kids.
Mhm.
You know, they were all in ranging territories of like either elementary or middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of transitioning into Zoom school. And that's like when you have younger kids in school, that's a lot of hands-on. But when you have younger kids during COVID, Zoom school is a whole nother like headache to manage. So, you know, essentially being like a personal secretary to my youngest child,
Right.
you know, like typing stuff for him and helping him stay on schedule. Like it's any parent who had young children during that time in school, that's a whole nother job.
Whoa.
So I was home with them and that was fine. But in the meantime, I was thinking like, okay, what is going to be my next move professionally? Do I get to return to the restaurant? When is that happening? We didn't know anything of like how long COVID was going to be. There was no vaccine. So there was no really knowing, and restaurants didn't know what they were doing either. Everyone was, you know, pivoting to these takeout situations. And, and in the meantime, I was watching a lot of fellow pastry people start to churn out these pastry boxes, which were really fascinating. Like, you know, the pastry chef at Liho was making like these amazing pastries and selling them as boxes. And a bunch of other people I saw through Instagram were doing these things. I was like, well, maybe I can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, well, I can't just turn out any ordinary pastry. It has to be something that like is unique to me and something that feels authentic to me.
Yeah.
You know, and all throughout my time in pastry school, I always had this vision having grown up, even though I am Mexican and I was born in Mexico, I grew up in Miami. So a lot of my exposure is Cuban food. And I always envisioned like, I'll just open up a ventanita, you know, like sell Cuban coffee and pastelitos. And that'll be like, that's amazing.
Right.
I love those things. It's one of those nostalgic childhood situations where I remember being over at friends' houses and like that pink bakery box would show up. You open it, there'll be all these pastelitos, like the guayaba and
damn guayaba,
like, right? Like all those
That's
delicious,
just so good,
delicious pastries. But in pastry school, every time we had sort of this chance to like freestyle, it'd be like, here's a recipe, you get to play with it. You don't have to follow it exactly like it says. You can add your own like spin on it. My instincts always took me. I always thought it would take me like the Cuban route.
Yeah.
And instead I was like, nope, leaning into like my Mexican heritage. So I was like, okay, well, clearly like something's coming up for me, you know, that I got to tap into this. So when I had this idea of the pastry box, I was like, well, why don't I just learn what I can about Pan Dulce, like now that I have the time. So I spent all of COVID summer just playing at home, going on YouTube, reading up on like whatever I could find.
YouTube University.
Seriously.
Shit works.
So many amazing panaderas online. And I just got to learn about all these like different pan dulces that we have in Mexico City, or in Mexico, not just Mexico City. And then, you know, learning from sort of taking what I had learned from recipe development at school and learning from chefs online and then just sort of like inserting myself in the middle,
right?
You know, because as chefs, we each bring our own take and flavor to what we do. And I just started to play around and be like, okay, I guess by the time September rolled around, I thought, okay, I think I'm ready to launch a box, and kind of just like dropped it on my personal Instagram. I'm like, guess what? I'm doing this, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I just did a Google Doc at the time where I just said, there's 30 boxes available and they're going to be delivered Saturday morning. Like, here you go. Like, sign up and buy.
Right.
You know, and like they sold out fast. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this now, you know, and then like, it's kind of just like, okay, now what next? And developing like a menu for the next week. And then like that just kept happening. And then over time, like the excitement kind of dies down a little bit with these types of subscriptions. But my mind was like, well, who else can I reach? How else can I reach more people? And I saw another classmate who lived and moved back to Oklahoma, and she was doing markets, farmers markets. And I was like, well, maybe I should reach out to a farmer's market here and see if I could sell at the farmer's market. And then that eventually, like I did, at the time, the market organization called Quesa, now known as Foodwise.
Okay.
They're the ones that run like the Saturday Ferry building market. But they also have a seasonal market in the Mission called Mission Mercado. Okay. And they run March through November. And
okay. It's all good.
Yep.
Here, boom.
Okay. Cool.
Back to normal.
Back to normal. Yeah, and they run Mission Mercado, which I thought, well, that might be a good fit for me. You know, it's a smaller market.
Right.
It's the Mission community, so there's a lot of Latino people there. And so maybe it's the right audience for me to be in. And I reached out to them maybe towards the end of their season. Like it was like October, and they end in November. And I said, I remember like sending in my application saying, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm making. If you think I might be a right fit, like let me know. And I think because of COVID and it had shut down so many vendors,
they needed vendors.
And I just happened to like show up at the
place,
right time.
right time, baby.
Seriously.
Love that.
Yeah. And I showed up with like my table. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, okay, now I have to make a menu, like a market menu. So it sort of like pushed me in creatively to develop more of a market menu. You know,
what was different from that menu than what was in the box?
So the box always consisted of 3 staple things. So it always had like a pair of chocolate chip cookies. Okay. Like my staple bread, which is the concha, which is like the classic Mexican pan dulce, and like a small bag of granola. Okay. And then I would rotate in 2 sort of like pastry specials that I would just like, you know, be another pan dulce and like another pastry, and I just kind of like kept like playing around, being like, okay, this week I'm going to try this new bread or this new pastry. But with a market, or in general, I think when you have like a coffee shop or a cafe, you have to have like a set, simple menu, and just be known for like, you know, you can show up to this place and you're always going to get like, you know, 5 to 6 things, and it just be simple and consistent. And like, I was like, okay, that's what I got to do. Like just come up with a menu. And so I expanded a little bit what I wanted to bring, and it kind of like, it's fun, right? Because then it gives you a challenge to be more creative and also think about like, well, what will appeal to the audience? And yeah, so I brought in, I think at the time, maybe I had 6 items on the menu, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is at capacity, because I was baking from home.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So when you sold your first 20 boxes, were you overwhelmed by how much space you needed? Oh, yeah. Did you have to buy another fridge?
No. Was
your house like just...
My house was inundated. It was nuts. And baking, because, you know, pan dulce it's a kind of, well, bread in general, like it goes stale, it dries out, and you want everything fresh, and you want it to still be edible by the time it makes it to your customer's doorstep. So baking had to be only a couple hours ahead of when it was due. So I was like on this crazy 24-hour schedule of baking bread, and out of a tiny, you know, house oven. Yeah. It's not like a commercial oven in a kitchen where you can crank out like
that's where the true test comes, because there's that moment where you're like, I'm never doing this again. Yes. Yeah, it was But
nuts.
the push through is why you're here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, I mean, and I had the luxury of time. Like COVID just gave us the luxury of time to...
What were your kids doing while you were baking all this stuff?
I mean,
they're like eating it.
Yeah, they're eating it, and it's summertime. So it's like, and we can't do anything except just either be inside or be way outside, like away from everyone else. So I had this luxury of time where the kids were free to do whatever they wanted. I was free to do whatever I wanted. I mean, within reason, but yeah, the kitchen was like off limits. You're not allowed to like come into my kitchen. And then, like Friday nights and Saturday mornings were all like, my dining table was just covered in boxes and covered in like trays of like, okay, everyone like pack up this round of cookies or pack up this round of whatever was going into the boxes.
Little empleados right there.
Yeah, little army of...
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I had 4 kids, so...
Yeah, you know? You want Jordans or not? God damn it.
That's funny.
So crazy story.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask you this before, but what were you in college for? Like, what were you trying to do before all this?
So I studied art.
Okay.
And then got married right out of college.
Okay.
And essentially, I had this weird moment where I was applying to grad schools. I was trying to get into architecture school. And right around the time I was not accepted into architecture school, I found out I was pregnant with my first child. And so I kind of just was like, okay, I guess I'm going this route right now. So I focused on having kids young and raising a family. And that's where I was for the first sort of 14, 15 years of my...
How old were you?
I was like mid-20s.
Got it.
24, 25 when I started having kids. And I just focused on that.
Did you think then that your life would change at all? Or did you think like, this is it? This is like what I'm doing forever?
The kids?
With the kids, yeah. Or were you like, once you're 20, I'll be free?
I wasn't sure. You know, they kids, having that many kids, it just becomes like a full-time job in of itself. And I was thinking about some of like the time that you lose to like career building, but at the same time, like having kids was a choice I made and where I really did want to be focused. And yet at the same time, I was like, well, you know, you weren't that passionate about any design. So it's okay to be like sort of sitting with the discomfort of not knowing what you want to do. Essentially, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I think it wasn't until I was like my youngest was finally in school. Maybe he was in third grade that I said, everyone's old enough now that they don't need me at home in the way they needed me when they were younger. And that itch of like always loving food, always loving to cook. It's one of the ways I best express myself. And just realizing like, why aren't you doing this already?
Right.
And that's what
fucking do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
So the farmer's market, how many days a week are you there?
The farmer's market at the Mission is only on Thursdays.
Okay.
So it's once a week.
Once a week.
Once
Thursday.
a week. And it runs November through March. Or March through November actually.
What do you fill in the off season with?
In the off season, actually this year is a kind of a new sort of transition because typically I used to be at two markets, one that ran year round and the Mission Market, which ran seasonally. And I dropped that other year round market. So right now I'm kind of in this sort of ambiguous place where I'm trying to figure out like, what do I do? You know, and my box subscription had closed for this past year. So I will likely be relaunching that in the new year, return to doing like that Saturday delivery box. And yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities for pop-ups and other things like that with collaborating with some of my other friends who are also in this sort of pop-up world.
Who are the friends we're talking about? Who we got?
There is this woman who I worked with briefly. We overlapped in Nopa. Her name is Brenda Landa. Okay. And she's a private chef right now, but she is doing occasional pop-ups with, there's a really good restaurant in the city, wine bar called 20 Spot. And so she's been collaborating with them occasionally.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
20 Spot.
The 20 Spot.
Hell yeah.
So
what's her pop-up concept called?
Her pop-up concept is called Good Bird.
Okay. Good Bird.
Good Bird.
Dope.
Yeah. Really cool person. Really great food. Really interesting, combination of her background. She's also of Mexican background, but she studied in Italy. And also, the California influence. So it's like all these different things coming together in her menus. Really, really interesting.
Damn. Speaking of Mexican culture, we got to take it all the way back because we're on Sucio Talked. Okay. So where were you born?
I was born in Mexico City.
Born in Mexico City.
Chilanga.
Chilanga.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what they call us.
When's the last time you were in Mexico City?
Recently, actually.
Recently, okay.
Yeah, I was there this past week.
How would you say things have changed over the time that you were born there until now?
It's a different experience as an adult going back because you get to see the city in a much more grown up way. But I'll have to say from the time I was young, even to the time that, that I am now, the city's always been like chock-a-block, like full of people, teeming with life. There's always street food, like tons of food everywhere you go.
There's just riffraff everywhere.
It's a beautiful city and it's always been super vibrant. I just feel like now it has way more play in sort of, I don't know if it has to do with social media or, campaigning better sort of marketing for the city.
But it's always been that good.
I think it's always been that good. Yeah. And it's just, I feel like Mexican food has just been elevated to like, it's no longer just seen as like, oh, it's just tacos and burritos, it's elevated.
You're right.
So I think it's just in our eyes more. And it has I would say it has a more louder sort of reputation, but it's always been there.
When you were growing up, was it always how'd you get to the States? Basically, was it always like a thing? Like, I'm going to live in the States when I'm older? Or were you like, I'm going to stay in Mexico City my whole life?
Yeah, so I was so young when we moved to the States. I was 5. My dad worked at a company that was opening a satellite office essentially in Miami.
Satellite.
So that's how we wound up in Miami. Just kind of random, there's not a huge Mexican community in Mexico, or sorry, in Miami. There's a huge Cuban community.
Puerto Riqueño.
Yeah, Puerto Riqueños, Dominicanos, like a lot of South American countries, but not a huge Mexican community there. And so, there wasn't just a lot of culture to hold on to. But we returned every summer. My dad and mom would drive us from Miami all the way to Mexico City every summer.
How long is that drive?
It's like a 4 to 5 day drive.
4 to 5 days. What were you staying in, like Motel 6s and shit along the way?
Yeah, we would. My dad was crazy.
That's an adventure. That's awesome.
My dad would drive, like avid driver, would drive like, the stretch of Florida. We'd get to like Mobile, Alabama, crash for the night somewhere, and then continue on to like Texas where we had family and like, take a break in Texas for like a day or two and then continue into, I think we'd cross the border, maybe stay with another family or like a hotel. Yeah. And then eventually like make our way all the way into the city.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. And it's just like, we just did it.
Good for dad. Hell yeah.
Mom and dad were crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Like, did you find like, since you did it so much, did you find you guys staying at like the same hotels after a while? Or was it always like a different hotel, a different town?
I feel like we always stopped in Mobile, Alabama.
That's like the place.
Yeah.
Any diners there that you remember? Any like
places I don't really remember the food. It would not surprise me if my mom just had a cooler packed with like oranges and apples and like sandwiches and like, just tossing back like, this is what you're eating. We're just driving nonstop.
Man, we just need 3 days worth of food. That's it.
We just need to get there. And then that's it. And I think really the times we would stop were in Dallas, which is where we have family. I do remember stopping there, and like I have a cousin who was born and raised in Dallas, and like just eating Southern Texan food. Like I learned all about okra, fried okra there, and like just hush puppies and, Texan food, right? Barbecue. Yeah. So I have food memories connected to Dallas. But yeah, that's about it. I think we would just drive straight. Nuts. It's nuts. When I think about it, when you think about it as an adult, you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah. Like you're like, I'd never do that. Never even think about doing that with like, just with a map, like just the first time he did it, just like figuring it out.
That's right. Like just take out the big atlas and be like, okay, I guess you go up I-95 and like,
I can't even get to the fucking corner store without putting the map in.
Right? I'm like, yeah, we're so used to our Google Maps.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it like suggests shit for you too.
Yeah, you don't have to think.
Like, hey, your parked car is over here. I'm like, I didn't even tell you to do that.
You're never lost.
You. Yeah. Crazy. Somebody was telling me the other day about, he was like, telling me about direction and north and east and west. And I'm like, man, as far as I'm concerned, wherever I'm looking is north.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Are you never like oriented?
You know, I'm never oriented. I haven't been oriented since birth. Like, I don't know where the fuck north is or east is.
So funny.
Like, I don't think about it. I'm just like,
you don't have to.
I'm just like, you know, it's one less. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, hey, as far as I'm concerned, this way is north.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of cultures that don't orient themselves, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or like the way they orient themselves is not necessarily related to directional. It's like either it's time-based or...
Whoa.
I don't know a whole lot of it, so I'm not going to like, you know...
Tell everyone here on Sucio Talked.
Yeah. Like, I'm an expert on...
You're an expert.
Yeah, on top of making pan dulce, I'm a navigational expert.
I also listen to History Channel while I make your pan dulce. So pan dulce, recipe. Talk me through it. Like, what's the method? What makes that bread different than regular ass bread?
So, you know, I think it's a very simple bread. It's a pan dulce has this history in Mexico from way back. It has to do with when wheat was introduced into the Mexican culture, because before wheat was introduced, it was an all masa based culture, corn based.
All corn.
And it kind of has like this, wheat has this ugly beginning, right? Because it's brought in by Spanish colonizers.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, hey, this is what we're paying you with. Like, not only are we taking over your land,
like shit.
And they're like, we're paying you with wheat. And so there was this sort of distaste for it, because it's like, well, we don't like this and you're paying us with it. So like, kind of, no thanks.
Fuck, man.
No, thank you. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And then over time, like, you know, as Mexico becomes sort of inundated with different colonizers, like the Spanish came in, the French came in, the Austrian came in, they get exposure to French, Austrian, European, essentially style breads. And by that time, you know, sugar's been introduced to essentially like the process of bread making, which makes it way more palatable to anything with sugar is better. So over time, like this evolves into pan dulce and Mexico's version of it. And now like it's pan dulce is ubiquitous with like Mexican culture. Like you walk into a panaderia and you don't think colonizers or, you know, you just think this is Mexican.
You're like, you know what? This bakery screams colonizer.
Right. But at the same time, it's like, it has come from that history.
Yeah.
But
sometimes I'm like, there's a dangerous question that I ask myself when I'm like, is the evil necessary for the things to happen that we like,
right?
Like innovation, whatever. There's like a little bit of bad in every good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I guess in this case, you could say like it didn't start.
Right. It wasn't the best. Like they weren't like, hey, we're paying you with wheat because in, you know, 300, 400 years, you guys are going to make pan dulce out of it. It's going to be bomb.
Right.
It's like you guys are going to take over. It's going to be dope.
Yeah.
No. I've been looking at a lot of recent things that just come up on social media. And then I, watch some YouTube videos about how Spanish people used to stink back in the day, and you could smell them. You could smell them coming.
Interesting.
And the natives would be like, yo, son, take a shower. Like, you need to take a shower. And they'd be like, and I guess the dirtiest motherfucker was like the coolest.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So kind of crazy.
That. Yeah, I did not know that.
I could be wrong. Someone fact check me.
Yeah. Where are your fact checkers?
50 people that listen to this show. I'm sorry. You thought you were going to get more publicity. No, I'm kidding. Where were we? Pan dulce.
Pan dulce.
Okay.
So the recipe, it is essentially a brioche style bread. And brioche is this delicious, like fluffy bread, highly enriched bread. So when we say enriched, we mean butter and eggs and like all the fats, right?
Tricky.
It can be tricky, but
is it wet? It's really wet dough.
It's not a wet dough. I would describe it as like a very elastic
Right.
and sometimes sticky dough. But it's beautiful to work with. It's one of like these tactile things that I really love working with dough. It's like over time, I'm like, oh, dough and I have a relationship. You know, it talks to you. You got to know how it behaves.
Yeah.
You got to treat it right.
It's like a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to like really like know how to work it with your hands and like watch it, you know, when it's rising. And if the yeast isn't working, you have to like figure that out. Like there's all these like little things that you learn technically as a baker, but then over time with tactile hands-on experience, you also learn what it should feel like and how it should behave, like when it's at its happiest, essentially. But the recipe that I use is a brioche style bread. I think a lot of places use masa madre, like sourdough.
Okay.
Which makes it more airy, you know, more fluff. My recipe is a little bit more dense.
Okay.
And I use butter.
Creamy.
Yeah, so I think a lot of typically
that's the best pan dulce. You don't want no crumbly pan dulce.
No, and I personally want that butter feel.
Yeah.
I want that rich flavor. I think traditionally, due to costs, a lot of like large scale bakeries, even in Mexico, use manteca, which is just widely available. It's a cheaper ingredient, but it does lack like the flavor.
Shortening.
Yeah, vegetable shortening. Maybe some places use lard, but what I've seen is manteca. And like not dissing manteca, because I also use it in different capacities, but for bread and like for like the staple, like the bulk of my baked products, I will use butter because butter just tastes better. So yeah, my pan dulce is a brioche style bread, but I really do try to keep it simple, because ultimately what's shining through and like what I want to connect with is like the simplicity of the food. It's using good ingredients and then just like bringing that to the community.
And then apart from the farmer's market, where else are you?
So right now I am working with Nopalito, the Mexican restaurant in San Francisco. They're sort of like my family in terms of like who I work with. They're the ones that kind of like gave me the space that I'm working in now. Not kind of. They you know,
they're fucking doing it.
They're doing it.
Who's the chef
there? Chef Gonzalo.
Okay.
He's amazing, and their team is amazing, and I love them like family. Yeah, and they essentially when the co-owner there found me at the farmer's market, she was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "This is what I'm doing." She happened to also be co-owner at Nopa at the time. And she was like, "Come to Nopalito. We have space for you." And so I took them up on that offer and like kind of just stayed. So Nopalito is like sort of my home base. They carry some of my bread there, so that's really great. That's one of my sort of sale avenues. And then Grand Coffee on Mission Street.
Okay.
They're a coffee shop. They have 2 locations. The original one is like right on 20th and Mission, and then like the newer shop opened up right by the Alamo
Draft House.
Oh,
okay.
There's a cute little coffee shop right next to it called Grand Coffee 2.
Who are the owners?
So that's co-owned by 3 owners.
Okay.
Nabil, Kim, and Adrian. Super fascinating people. Like Nabil is of Palestinian background, Adrian is Mexican American, and Kim is Korean American. And so they
Collabo. That's cool.
Amazing group of people, humans, wonderful people, and I don't even know how we found each other. I think one of them came through the Mission Market, because the Mission Market is like literally behind, like it's like right around the corner from their spot, and they found me and they're like, "Wow, we'd love to have some of your pastries in our shop." And I kind of said, "Oh, okay, yeah, I
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So you can find your pastries there all the time.
Not all the time, but Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mondays and Wednesdays.
And Wednesdays, I'm dropping off at Grand Coffee, and then at Nopalito, it's weekly, like daily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Do you also do the bread for like their savory, like bread butter?
For Nopalito?
Yeah.
No, they have their own. They don't do like bread for the table, but they do have like sandwiches that they make for their takeout window. That they have their own bread for that.
Oh, right.
Very
so
I just
cool. I gotta check out these spots.
Yeah. If you haven't been to Nopalito, I highly recommend it. Okay. And also Grand Coffee's coffee is amazing.
Okay, Grand Coffee, Nopalito. I'm coming. Coming for you.
Yeah.
Should be a Sucio Talk promo code.
You should go check. Well, I don't know how to get you the promo code.
Hey, chef, I'll work on it on my own. But I'm thinking that if you go to a restaurant, you listen to the show, you say Sucio sent me.
Yeah.
5% off your bill. Boom.
There you go.
Boom.
There you go. Wear the T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I know I could make it work. Okay, so Nopalito, you're there. How many days a week are you working? 7 days a week?
I was for a long time. Like sort of.
You got employees now?
Kind of. Little like
chef.
like part-time employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you got?
I work. I like to say I work with people, not like people don't work for me, because it is a collaborative team effort. But I have Selasi Dochi working alongside with me on some days.
Selasi recommended you to this podcast, so shout out to her.
Yeah, shout out to Selasi.
Yeah. Love
that person. They're doing amazing stuff with their food as well. And then this woman who I met through Nopalito, she was their main sort of salsa maker and was looking for, more work, and she was recommended to me. And so I started working with her. And yes, just solid people to work with.
Hell yeah. So how are you forecasting your needs for how busy you are? Like, do you know more or less how much you're going to sell? Are you over, under? Are you kind of,
It depends for instance, for market, like I have set pars. I have an idea of what sells at the market. So that's just like steady. And now I feel like now it's so steady that, like, for instance, this past season, I brought on 2 new items, and like, it's nice to be in this place where you can be like, I'm going to introduce to the community a new cake, and like just see how it sells, and just sort of have like, they have enough confidence, or they like your stuff enough that you can confidently bring something new to the market and people will buy it because they're like, well, I like your other stuff, so I'm trusting that this is going to be good too, or good for me. Yeah. And so like my sales for a market like have been consistent, although kind of wacky in some ways, but consistent. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right away. I want to know what the farmer's market tax is.
That's a good question. I kind of just give out.
Is it by contract, or like, do you pay for the stand?
Oh, you mean with the organization? Yeah. So food wise, depending on the kind of seller you are, you have to apply for permits, but they sort of guide you through it and do it for you. So you pay them a fee, a quarterly fee. So for if food wise, or if Mission Market was open for 4 seasons, the 4 quarters of the year, then every quarter I would be paying the city fee for running what would be called like a temporary food facility. But it depends on the kind of seller you are. So me sort of being in this strange niche where I don't have my own commercial kitchen, but I'm operating out of a commercial kitchen, I fall under this temporary food facility category, which covers me sort of legally with the city to operate out of the commercial kitchen and sell at the farmer's market.
Gotcha.
But I also carry a cottage food industry, like a CFO is what they're called, which allows me to still sort of operate from home, which I don't really do at this point. But it just covers me in case anything were to happen where like emergency, I need to work from home,
Right. So you have to get a certification now to cook from home.
Yeah, the cottage food industry, that's how most people were doing it, especially during COVID when there wasn't access to commercial kitchens.
Damn.
Yeah, the cottage food industry blew up during COVID for sure.
I know that there's a lot of places on DoorDash
Yeah.
that you can order from, and it's like people's houses.
I'm sure there's that, and there's like the ghost kitchens. I don't know how they operate, but there are a lot of ghost kitchens and sort of these satellite kitchens where you can rent for a day or two, or I don't know. But I'm not sure what the
day or two.
Yeah, I think you can like
that's crazy.
Tap into that sort of network of ghost kitchens, or like, you know, maybe only rent it out a day or two every week.
Right.
Right. You're a tenant at this location for only a set amount of time.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I don't know the permitting process for that, like what is required. I'm very like specific. Like I know what I need for the farmer's market.
Right.
And then Foodwise does charge you for like the stall.
Right.
And that's
because they set up the tents.
We set up our own tents, but you know, you're paying for the space, like the little square, the 10 by 10 square essentially that you get. So yeah.
So they're landlords. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Shout out to Foodwise. We love you.
Shout out to Foodwise. I love Foodwise.
We love you.
Yes.
I never did really a farmer's market. I did do a taco cart a couple times.
Yeah. Have you been to the markets in the city?
Not over here. Not the one that you're talking about, the Mission Mercado.
Mission Mercado is beautiful.
Yeah.
The community there is amazing. I love what Foodwise is doing in the Mission. I love what they do here at the Ferry Building. But it's a different vibe, different community. You get a lot more, I would say, tourist traffic at the Ferry Building, just because it is like a gathering spot for San Francisco, and it's like an icon, you know. So if you're ever selling at the Saturday Ferry Building, you're just going to get a lot of passerbys who kind of like, oh, what's that? You know, but when you're at the Mission Market, people are like, I'm coming here for my pan dulce. I'm coming here for my masa. I'm coming here for like my fruit from this vendor or my strawberries from this.
You have loyal customers there.
You have like set customers, you know, and then occasionally you get like a random person that's like, oh, what is this? You know, and you're like, well, this is what this is. And they're like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. So you get to like have those interactions as well, where you're introducing what you do to somebody new. And that's always nice too. But I feel way more at home at the Mission Market than when I've popped up at the Saturday Ferry Building. It's just such a much larger. I think you have to be a consistent vendor to get that consistent customer base.
Whoa, that's crazy. It might be that not the same people go to every market.
Yeah. I think it definitely you tap into different communities in the city.
I think when you live in Oakland, the city seems small to me. Like I'm not like, but when you're in it, you're like, man, I gotta go all the way to Embarcadero.
Right.
When you're in the Mission, you're like, fuck that.
Yeah, it's like they're like little villages. All.
Yeah, but when I'm here and I'm like, fuck, gotta drive over there, no problem.
Yeah. Huh.
And even when you're in the city, if I'm driving, no problem. I don't like. It's 10 minutes.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I think just people can't do it.
Yeah.
It is dangerous driving in that city.
Really?
Or people go crazy. Well, you know, you were driving.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm used to it. I don't know. I'm used to the crazy drivers.
She's just immune.
Yeah.
It's
I'm like yeah. I'm curious what kind of crazy driving you've seen that you find scary.
I mean, you see the sideshow shit, and then I just see a lot of close calls. You know, people like just running the red light, and I'm just like, oh,
yeah,
you know, and I'm horrified for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you're like trauma.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yo, that could end so badly.
I will say this: I tend to be. I think I'm pretty good at navigating in general, but I remember just hearing there are a lot of one ways. There's a lot of, you can only be, this is like a left turn lane only, like all these things that I think over time as a local driver, you just learn. And yeah. on. Good. Need to sit up. Is that good? Okay.
The bar was just like across your
Across
face.
one,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's okay. Nobody watches this, so it's fine. Especially now. I mean, look, it's a lot expecting people to watch like an hour of something like
Sure.
this.
Yeah, it's true.
Like I did a podcast once, was 3 hours.
Your own podcast?
Yeah, this one. I
Yeah.
did one. I was in like North Carolina or some shit, and somebody was like, "Lord of the Rings," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's a
is
long-
literally a 3-hour movie."
Oppenheimer.
And this podcast, this podcast is the same length. I'm like, nobody's gonna listen to
No
this.
one's gonna sit and like listen to me talk about navigation. In the city.
Literally, it's crazy. Fucking
That's
nuts.
funny.
So, do you want a restaurant? Do you want a brick and mortar bakery?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Where would you put it?
I think it would be amazing to be able to be in the Mission
Mm-hmm.
to kind of, I don't know, like this past year I've been lucky enough to be able to travel to Mexico City twice. I'm like, the city is so, Mexico City is so vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
There's this pulse. I'm like, wouldn't it be so amazing to be able to somehow like regenerate this energy and bring it to the Mission
Mm-hmm.
and like have this community space where, I don't know, like, you know, we can be making bread for the community and like, I don't know, just like this open space for everyone that I find to be my regulars.
Mm-hmm. Would you do classes?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
I think it'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come learn how to make.
You can be one of those panaderas on YouTube.
Yeah. Come learn how to make conchas with me.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Concha workshops.
There you go.
Yeah.
TikTok workshops.
Yeah. There you go.
You gotta do all that.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. I do like to teach.
I think it's a good way to get the community involved, and you could do it at the farmers market.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
I did like ribs or something.
Did you
Yeah, in the
live in the like while you were selling?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I wasn't selling. It was
Okay.
like a restaurant. I was with the Charter Oak, and they're like, "You got to go do this presentation at the farmers market."
Okay. Yeah.
So we like brought some stuff, and we like
Right.
grilled, and we were
Okay.
like, here you go. This is how you make this.
Yeah, I did it over the summer, or actually late summer. I did a little food demo at Foodwise at the Ferry Building.
Yeah.
That was fun. But it was a lot of like prep, you know, leading up to it. You know,
Mhm.
you can't bake bread on site because it just takes time. But I
You gotta
had
get yourself one of those little ovens.
when
Just hitch to the back of your car.
right, like one of those super hot ovens, like
Yeah.
pizza ovens.
Exactly. Pizza oven. Put in the back a
Yeah.
little trailer.
Yeah, little flatbreads.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So, but I brought like bolillos, which are
Mhm.
Mexicans, like our version of a baguette. They're like little football shaped breads.
Bolillos.
Bolillos. Yeah, they're-
Bolillos means, well, in Puerto Rico Spanish, cigarette butts.
Oh, really?
Bolillos, yeah.
Oh,
No
interesting.
tiene los bolillos ahí. Don't mind. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
It's like same language, but different.
I
Same,
know.
but different.
So many different. And there's so much, honestly, having grown up in the States and sort of been far away from my culture, there's so much that I'm constantly like learning. Like I'll be in the kitchen with Gonzalo
Mhm.
from Nopalito and he'll throw out like a saying and I'm just like,
Yeah.
and he's like, ay, Raquel, like, you're not Mexican. I'm like, forgive me. Like I'm straddling both cultures, you know,
Yeah.
like I've got to like, it's like this.
It's like you're thinking in Spanish,
Yeah.
talking in English, or
Yeah,
vice
or
versa.
vice versa.
Yeah. And you're
Yes.
like, yeah, so it's hard.
Yeah, when I feel like there's like this interesting, and maybe there's more of us now, but it's like, you know, you hear a lot of like neither ni de aquí ni de allá,
Yeah.
you know, and how there's so many of us now who either were born in our respective countries but then raised in the States, but
Yep.
then had like really close ties to where we grew up, but we're also like being raised with like the Americana culture and, you know, still exposed to our own culture. And it's like you're bridging these two cultures and and it just makes for a unique experience as a person. But also like there's like a lot lost in translation and a lot lost in the sense of what the knowledge that you could gain from like be fully immersed in one spot, you know?
For sure. I mean, I think it's a blessing, you know, when I was born in Puerto Rico, raised in Connecticut, completely different places.
Totally.
But you're like, you know, Miami experience though, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Going to school in Miami.
Yeah.
It's always hot. What were you doing like weekends hanging out with friends?
I mean,
in high school and stuff.
Yeah,
in
you
Miami.
spend a lot of time on the beach.
You're just going to the beach.
You're going to the beach.
Come on.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, the beach is amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know, and even as a child, like my parents would pack us into the car. We'd drive by like the little market that had like the delicious Cuban sandwiches and buy a bunch of Cuban sandwiches and like pack them to the beach.
Hell
and, like,
yeah.
Spend a day at the beach eating a bunch of like Cuban sandwiches. Like, either like the classic cubano or pan con bistec. Like those are things that are like nostalgia inducing for me, but also they're freaking delicious.
Do you think you'd ever move back to Florida, Miami?
No.
Do you have family there still?
No, I don't have family anymore there.
No,
my parents moved. They moved away from Miami, so
got it.
Miami I don't have a home base there anymore, like family wise.
Right, so you're like whatever. Any friends?
I have friends there. Yeah, like a lot of my high school friends are.
But your life is here now. Or you're staying here.
Life is here, totally. Yeah, life is here. This is home. I feel like San Francisco is where I feel the most connected to, like, my culture in some way.
I would say that it's kind of like a second Mexico City.
Yeah.
It could feel like that in some neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Just the energy sometimes is like that.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, so I grew up in Miami, highly exposed to Cuban culture, like other Latin cultures, not a whole lot of exposure of my own. And then I went to school in the Northeast, which is a complete different culture, and still also sort of feeling othered in that way where you're just not seeing a lot of your own self. And then eventually making my way out here to California. And then this is where I'm like, oh, here are the Mexicans. Here's this culture that like I've been longing for all this time, you know. There's so much diversity here. It just feels like you don't feel like you stand out as much because there's just so much more. There's so many more minorities than I had been exposed to, I think. Well, in college, I guess.
Right. It does feel nice to blend in.
It's nice. And it's also nice to like, it's just nice to experience like other cultures that you can relate to. You know, I think you can generally find connection with any culture. But there is something about like Mexican culture and like the family base and like you see that like resonating in other cultures. So it's just nice to experience that. Out here. Yeah. And I think also like for me, that's the Mexican community here. It's like just hearing your own accent. Yeah. You know, like that's freaking awesome.
Hell yeah. It's nice. You know where I was just at? I was at Hobosh in Mexico.
Right. I don't know Hobosh.
It's 2 hours off the coast of Cancun.
Okay.
No, I mean, it takes 2 hours to get there, but it's like a little island off Cancun. It was so dope. It was amazing. It was apparently there's no rock on the island. It's all soft sand.
Okay.
So when the tide came up, like all the streets flooded.
Oh, wow.
And you had to take like a dune buggy to get to places. It was fucking sick.
What brought you there?
Oh, my girl was celebrating my new job.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. How fun.
So did that. It was fun. Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't know about that place, but.
Yeah. It was like, how did you find this? You know, she's like, hey, I found it, you know?
That's awesome.
New chef at OpenAI, by the way. Oh.
Say that.
I just can't.
Dropping it
I just can't believe it because you know I'm not a corporate person.
Sure.
I've never been.
Yeah.
And now I'm like the executive chef of OpenAI.
Yeah.
This like app tech company, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Here?
Tell me about that.
I'm just like, pinch me. Is this real? I like spent a couple days at Google. Yo, they got a DeLorean meeting room.
Wait, what?
like a Back to the Future car.
Okay. But it's inside the room, or the room is made to look like the DeLorean? It's
inside.
Okay.
The car is there, and it's a meeting room.
Okay.
You can like sit in there and have a meeting.
The car and like look at the flux capacitor.
Literally the replica. I'll show you pictures. It's fucking nuts.
That's nuts. And the incentive behind that is just fun.
It's just cool. I don't know.
Does it help with employee productivity?
Honestly, everyone there is smiling.
Yeah. Yeah. How could you not?
Not one person there is like, I'm so stressed out.
Yeah.
They're all like, how?
Yeah. Like I'm Marty McFly.
Shit. Yeah. Fucking food is free. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. They've got it good there. It sounds like.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, where was this my whole life?
Right.
It's over here struggling.
Did you grow up in that era of like Back to the Future and that kind of
90s, early 90s, late 80s. Like, even though the first one I think was like 84 or something.
Yeah.
The first one was early. But no, my dad. So in Puerto Rico, there's this town called Lajas, and in Lajas there is a gas station / movie rental place.
Okay.
And it's old school movie rentals with like the VHS with the foam still to this day.
Wow.
Like some DVDs, but mainly VHS.
Yeah.
And so my dad used to like old horror movies. So we used to watch like Dracula, but we also used to watch this old Mexican wrestler called Santos.
Okay.
And he had movies with like Santos versus werewolf, Santos versus Dracula. And at the end of every movie, they would end up on this cliff, and Santos would like push the person off or whatever. Yeah, and be like, Every movie ended up like a pit at the edge of hell, because it was always like fire and then a pit. But yeah, I always remember Santos. But yeah, that VHS
I meant to
place.
Look that up. But that's amazing. So VHS, but how many households still have VHS?
Yeah, I don't think any. Like, because there's a lot of lost family footage that I feel like needs to be recovered. Just a lot of families got that little camcorder and, 1995, just like, I know, I got a bunch of it,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Santos. I'm going to have to look that up.
See? Yeah, check it out. Santos.
See, these are like bits of my culture that I'm always learning new things.
The lucha libre is important.
Totally. Yeah, it's such a...
You got Rey Mysterio. And his son is now a wrestler. Dominic.
Yeah.
Do you follow this?
I don't follow lucha libre.
How do you know?
But I've heard of it, Mysterio. Yeah. I've heard of like the name is, but I haven't really gone to see it. I was in Mexico City recently, but it was such a large family gathering. We were there for my parents celebrating their wedding anniversary. And so it was
what wedding anniversary? What year?
50th.
50
years together.
Damn, they don't make them like that no more.
No, it's special. It's special.
Yeah.
And I had a set of cousins who went to lucha libre, but there was just so many of us, and we were all like, sort of like, divided.
Yeah, you're in the mix. Plus, they probably got you baking. Like,
no, I didn't have to bake. Okay. I didn't have to bake.
Okay.
But it's just there was so much activity that I didn't get a chance to like find out like what everyone else was doing, and then I found out later that a bunch of them had gone.
They had gone to the lucha.
Yeah, and I was like, that would have been fun.
That shit's good. I mean, they come here. They come here sometimes.
Yeah, they're here, and there's a local organization that does a fundraiser like once a year.
And they do lucha at the fundraiser.
They do lucha at the fundraiser.
That's dope.
Yeah, and I think it's either in the Mission or like Cow Palace or somewhere where they hold it. But it's
the Cow Palace is a wild place.
Yeah,
I cooked there.
Really?
Yeah, I helped this. Was
it like large
caterer?
Event?
Was an event. Yeah, It was a rodeo.
Yes, I've heard of that rodeo.
It was a rodeo, and it was fucking crazy.
Cow Palace.
It was like 3,000 people.
Yeah,
just hungry as fuck. And crazy new kitchen build out.
Okay.
Like new dishwasher, brand new. We were the first ones to use it.
So was that nice? Like that was that good? Or
it was really nice.
Okay.
It was like really spacious room.
Right.
Like,
but still cooking at that large scale was.
I mean, it was kind of easy too, because it's just pulled pork sandwiches.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, like the sauce and the meat is there, and it's not like a nice. I mean, wasn't bad, but I'm just saying like there's no pickles on it.
It's
There's
fast food. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're like.
So it's just assembly. But
Yeah,
it's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's work.
I was doing this thing where I was just saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
And then you end up doing some things where you're like, where the fuck are we?
What am I doing?
Yeah, because I looked out from that back room, the kitchen back room, and there was just like sleeping show pigs.
Yeah.
Or like the whole room was full of sleeping show pigs.
Like, how did I wind up here with?
They legitimately like show them, and they're like these huge muscular ass pigs that are just like fucking. What? It's crazy. They walk them. Yeah. Like they show them, and people are like so pumped.
And it's just for show.
It's just for show. That's
They're not being.
After a while, they get slaughtered, but like they're just for show. And there's families out back camping,
right?
Like, just like with their pig.
Yeah, that's what they do.
It's a huge thing.
It's like such a niche.
I just never understood it.
Yeah.
I never looked at a farm animal. I was like, damn, look at that farm animal.
It's like I bet you there's a documentary about that, right? But there's like a documentary about like show chickens.
Yeah, there is.
And I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Show chickens.
Yeah, like all the different like beautiful like, whatever crested chickens or and how they're bred and like how they're like which ones show better and how they I don't know. It was like I heard about it listening to another podcast that reviews documentaries. But it's a comedy podcast. So
okay. What's it called?
Cheryl and Tig True Story.
Okay. Is it Tig Notaro?
Yes.
Okay. Got you.
So like she and her best friend will like commit to watching a documentary and then they review it. But half the time they're just like not talking about it.
Right.
And then they inadvertently like, of course it's Tig, so it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
Like the commentary.
Then they circle back.
They circle back, but they essentially cover the basic, like this is the gist of this documentary and this is what we loved and this is what's weird about it and this is what's whatever. So I learned a lot about documentaries, but I remember hearing about the chicken documentary.
Damn. Chicken. I've been to a cockfight before.
I have not.
That shit's crazy.
Yeah.
They're like, they got this little like thing they put on their claw before they go at it. Uh-huh. It's like a glove. It's crazy. It's
Wait,
like
the chicken's got a claw?
Yeah, the chicken has like a protective thing on its claw.
Where was this?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like normal when I was a kid. Now it's like, no, you can't do that.
It's illegal in Puerto Rico.
I think it was illegal then too, I think, but people don't give a fuck kind of.
Yeah.
You know? It's not like, especially the cops. I mean, they don't care, Hey, you don't get paid enough to care sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's probably bigger things to worry about.
Larger fish to fry.
Exactly. Like, fine, these people are going to have fun at a cockfight, then
that's very true.
Like, they're not harming anyone, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the chickens are being harmed. But if it's like containing a group of people that otherwise might be out causing trouble.
Right.
Like,
then why not? That's why I say let the sideshows go.
Kind of.
Yeah. Just don't do it on the Bay Bridge.
Yeah.
Like that's come on, man. People got to get to work.
Yeah. I've never seen one. I hear them every now and then because I live in a neighborhood where I'm not too far from Twin Peaks. You hear a lot about like this happened in Twin Peaks and, or there are intersections near where I live where you can just see like the
donut marks.
Yep. And you're like, all right.
Hey, it's people having fun.
People are having fun.
Sometimes I see them crash and I'm like, I don't think that I would put my tires in my car in that kind of danger for just like, for nothing.
But that's what they do though, right?
Because nobody's like, good job. Do you think there's like a king? Like a person that's really good at it?
There must be.
The hierarchy of.
There must be, right?
Like, you think in 10 years they're going to be in the Olympics?
That would be really weird.
Yeah, it would be. Who knows?
But you never know.
You never really know.
You never know. Anything's possible.
I was thinking about the bakery concept, and I thought, will you have savory food as well? And do you want it to be a big place or like a smaller ventanita, smaller window place?
The better answer is probably I don't know. Being in Mexico City and seeing like what is viable. Like in Mexico City, you can see like little small coffee shops and pastry shops and stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like they're producing really beautiful work in a small space. So it's nice to see what you can produce in a small space, and I like that idea. It's something that I'm very acclimated to. Like at Nopa, the Nopa pastry room is probably not that much bigger than this square space here. And that pastry department pumps out so much. Like, well, at the time we were there, and I'm sure now still, like they're pumping out breads, doughs for the sort of the savory side of the restaurant, plus all the dessert components that get used up in their desserts. And it was a really like good learning experience for me to see like you work small, you work efficient, and you can get a lot done. But then it's also nice to be like, I've got this large workspace and I can do all of this stuff, and like churn out like hundreds of things if you have like the space to do it like in a way that makes sense.
Right.
I get inspired by places that feel that they draw a crowd, whether that is a large space or not. I don't know. I think I just want it to feel like a community space. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be huge. But it like dream as big as I can. Like, yeah, it would be amazing to have a huge production space, where we're churning out like hundreds of conchas. But realistically, I think I'd be happy with a small space and just, keep it simple.
Small team,
consistent work, good menu. And as far as savory stuff, there are a couple of things that are nostalgic to me. That food demo that I did at the Ferry Building, that was, I kind of like went outside of what people know me for. But it was still like a bread item. In Mexico, like regional Mexico, we have this like really delicious antojito, or maybe like breakfast thing called mollete, which is like you take a bolillo, you slice it lengthwise, you spread it with refried beans, you top it with cheese, you toast that up. It's like the cheese is all like melty and bubbly, and then you take it out of the oven, and then it gets served with like a fresh pico de gallo salsa. And then if you really want to like bump it up, you can like add an egg on top, and like, you can keep adding more things to it to make it like sort of like a complete breakfast. But it's one of those things that like you crave after like a late night out, or like in the morning, like, I just want a mollete, just.
Damn.
Yeah, it's just so simple comfort food.
Yeah.
I think I would lean towards like offering things like that, but not in a full sort of breakfast capacity way. Molletes are delicious. They're classic.
So you're not afraid to try something new?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any other cuisine that you'd like to explore?
I like to eat anything.
Right.
But as far as like when it comes to like making my own stuff.
Would you like to draw any influence from anything else, or like,
Yeah, I think right now for what I'm doing, I really just try to tap into what feels like Mexican to me. Yeah. I really focus on what we have seasonally available here in California. So there's a lot of my menu has like rotating like fruit, whatever's in season, whether that's showing up as fruit or like jams.
Yeah.
I tend to just kind of try to stay in my own lane when it comes to what I'm pulling from, which is it's either coming from like my childhood directly or from my culture. And also I'm playing into a little bit of like the Americana stuff that I grew up around with. But I never try to like push too far out, because I don't know. For me, what feels most authentic is staying staying within this
Right.
like Raquel lane. You
Hey,
know?
yeah. You
Yeah.
know, you don't got to be nobody else.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
But I love like being inspired by like having dessert at other places, you know,
Yeah.
and like that's, you know, if I go eat at dinner somewhere and I have like a delicious, like if it's Chinese, for instance, and
Mhm.
there's some like jasmine and like green tea or whatever sort of things, I'm like always like, okay, well, this is beautiful. Like how can I bring some of this into what I'm doing in a way that feels authentic? You know, can I tie this into anything that, like, is there any sort of overlap with these ingredients or adjacent to what like is already within our culture?
Right.
And sometimes there is, you know, sometimes you can be like, hey, I was inspired by this sort of citrus thing that I had at another restaurant, but I'm going to like bring it Mexican style, you know, and like sort of have it in as an inspiration, but like flip it into like sort of translate it into what I would see it as like in Mexico, or for me anyway, what resonates as Mexican.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your favorite season?
Oof.
It's like the fruit that you love using.
Summer.
Okay.
Man. We are so lucky here.
Mhm.
Like you roll into berries, and that's just quintessential berries. But then like you get all the beautiful stone fruit. You're still having a little bit of like the citrus kind of around. But once summer hits, and you're just like, it's this bounty of fruit. Like it becomes overwhelming. You're like, I don't know what else. Like I'm not gonna get a chance to like get my hands on all of this fruit and bring it out into the market, because it's just so much.
It really is.
Yeah.
You go to the farmer's market, there's like 4 stands with the same fruit. You're like, God damn.
It's so much fruit, but it's also like the variety that we get. It's like you can have this kind of peach and that kind of peach
Right.
and this kind of apricot and this kind of stone fruit and pluots, and like it's just.
What do you think of those donut peaches? Not sold on those. Never had a good one.
Yeah, they're fine.
You know,
They're not like,
kind of show up with their little
they're kind of cute.
shape.
Yeah,
you know?
they're just fun for their shape, maybe.
Right.
You know, I don't.
Has anyone ever had a good donut peach? Is my question.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I'll have to ask. Maybe tap into like one of like the peach farmers. Be like, what's up with the donut?
Put a Sucio poll out at the farmer's market
Yeah.
and see.
Have
Have you
a-
ever had a good donut peach? You're gonna piss off the other vendors.
have
You
a-
got to do it off season.
Have a what's up with that moment?
Yeah, there we go.
What's up with that?
What's up with that?
Yeah.
I couldn't set up shop at your stand
Yeah.
and do a podcast while you.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
Come on down to the Mission Market.
Yeah.
They'd love you there.
Yeah. I'll stand right in front and talk
Yeah.
shit all day.
Talk with all like
It's-
the Latino people there. They'd love you.
Yeah. We need it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you
I'm
go.
down.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell the food wise.
You're just gonna show up.
We're just going to show up. We're going to do it. And then when they're like, hey, you got to get the fuck out of here.
No.
Just
I
be
think
like,
they'd
we don't know
probably
him.
They'd probably appreciate the.
Appreciate the banter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
interact
whoever
with,
thought
like,
about that?
do a live podcast.
Chef entertainment at because let's face it, the band at the farmer's market. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
on.
it changes. It changes.
I'm not calling out anybody specific. Well, hang on.
Yeah, they could do
I've
something
never
better.
been at the farmer's market and been
You
like,
should tap into
damn,
that.
I love these jams.
Yeah. You should check. Definitely, that'd be an interesting concept. To be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm here. Like, we're gonna talk to this person, or
Yeah, be like,
get to know your farmers.
step right up. Yeah.
Seriously, have you like, for me, that's one of like the most
It's the best part of the farmer's market.
one of the most fun and endearing things about being a vendor at the market.
Mm-hmm.
I love my customers. I love getting to know people. I love seeing the regulars. I love like doing my best to remember everyone's names. Like there's something really personal to me about that. But that aside, walking over to the person that I'm going to buy my strawberries from and like just talking to them
Yeah.
about the work they do, how long they've been working, where they're working from. You know, we're so lucky to have such a bounty here in San Francisco and like Oakland too. But when you talk to each farmer, they're like, yeah, they're driving in from Watsonville. They're driving in from Salinas. They're driving in from like the North Bay. These are like 1.5 to 2 hour drives.
Yeah.
On top of
people coming here from Fresno sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
on top of like all the work they did to load up their trucks, on top of like all the work they did to pick the fruit, the history behind their farms. You learn about how the weather affects their work, how it's been good or bad, you know, for them. There's something really beautiful about like talking to them, the day laborers. You get to learn. I think it's interesting. It's one of the things that I feel like I was talking to Selassie about this not too long ago, but there's this aspect around the people we work with in kitchens. And I think also for farmers that it's like, yeah, this is just our job. This is what we do. This is our livelihood. And they each have like crazy stories of how they got here or how they got started. And they just kind of accept it as like, yeah, this is, as like there's this coworker of mine who will be like, that's how life is, you know, and like it can be the worst of situations. I think that many of us with the privilege of having maybe grown up here and like a different lifestyle, like you're like, wow, they've crossed, you know, miles and miles of roads to get here, worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs to like make a living here and support their family here and over there. And they're like, yeah, si es la vida, you know, or
yeah,
that's life.
Yeah.
And then you're just like,
no complaints.
No complaints. They're just doing it. And it's this piece of our food industry that I don't think gets like a light shine. Like these people are freaking heroes. Like bringing all this food, like that plate of delicious food. Like, look. I use my hands a lot.
It's all good.
Like you look back to the kitchen and it's like there's this whole army of men and women and people working back there who we don't know their stories and we don't know how hard they've worked to bring you that plate or that piece of fruit or that vegetable. There's something really I think really special about those people working in the kitchens or at the farmers markets.
That's why I do Sucio Talk.
Yeah. Seriously.
Talk to heroes such as yourself. You know what I mean? Don't cut yourself out.
I don't know about that.
Don't cut yourself out. You see, you're calling all these people heroes. Yeah. You're a hero as well. All right. Okay. You feed the community. You bring people together. People are enjoying your products well after they leave you. You're part of the topic of conversation that comes up weekly to the people that come see you. You know, so it's no small thing. And so just as you're recognizing all those other people, you need to stop a second and be like, yo, I'm the motherfucking shit out here. Okay, Norte 54.
Norte 54 is doing its thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Norte 54, how can they find you? Website, locations, days of the week, email.
Okay. So Norte 54, it's norte54.com. That's my site. It needs an update, but soon it'll be like Rosca de Reyes is coming up soon. That's like that King's Day bread that we have. So orders are going to open up for that soon. And Instagram is norte.54. And then weekly you can get my pastries at Nopalito. Like that's Monday, like 7 days a week. And then at Grand Coffee, we have Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm delivering there. And then there's special orders. You can just reach out to me at norte54sf@gmail.com if you want any special orders, if there's any like special things that you've had at the farmer's market and you're like, hey, I'd love to have a tres leches cake. Do you do that? I'm like, yes, I do. You know, or like large orders of pastries. That's always, I'm always available for special orders like that.
Hell yeah. Chef Raquel Goldman in the house doing it.
Yeah.
You know, out here
making it happen
for Sucio Talk. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. We're gonna have you on again at some point. You know what I mean? Like this is gonna be a recurring thing. It's all good. You know, we can tell me a baker that you want to talk to, and we'll get them both on the show. We'll get you both talking about
that would be
about
really
confections.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, look, this booth is big.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that big, but we can get some people in here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's what I would like to happen. It's hard to make it happen, but with enough diligence.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I like I said, I love highlighting. I'm thankful that Selassie like reached out to you about me.
Yeah. Shout out to Selassie for sure.
But I'm also a huge advocate of like highlighting like other people in this work. Minority owned people, people of color, or minority owned, not people, minority
owned people. The tables have turned.
No.
Chef, it's okay.
But yeah, anyway, people of color, I love, I do love supporting. Like, I feel like when I'm in a quiet space, which I am now, I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Now's the time to like pump out energy to like anyone doing pop-ups, anyone, making goods. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Bring those stories.
Bring the stories up to the forefront. That's what we do here on Sucio Talk. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be back next week. This episode will probably be out tomorrow. Who knows?
Okay.
Okay. Goodbye. Nos vemos.
Adios.
Boom.
All right.
That's it, Chef. How you feeling?
Yeah, that was fun.
It's okay. You slap the shit out of my microphones.
I'm much kinder in person.